Hey everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. I hope that you have had a really good week. For those of you who are new to Mental Health Moment, welcome, welcome. It's Dr. Hammond here with your Mental Health Moment. We are here live every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. And let's see here. Okay, I'm getting a technical difficulty message here. So bear with me. Let's see if this wants to work. Anyhow, if you're tuning in every single Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, welcome back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. And let's see here. Let me try something because for some reason, hopefully this will work now. Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. And good evening to you. For those of you who are joining here, I got a little error message here, but hopefully things are good because I see you guys, some of your comments coming in. But it's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. If you are tuning in on the replay on Dr. Nikisha Hammond YouTube, welcome, welcome. Be sure to like this video, share, and subscribe. Yes, okay, finally, I see some comments coming in from LinkedIn here. So for those of you who are on LinkedIn, so this is live LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. But for those of you who are on LinkedIn, hi, welcome. I see some of you now. I'm not sure what happened over the last couple of weeks. Honestly, there was some glitch, I suppose. So if you were leaving comments, unfortunately, I couldn't have seen them, but now I am seeing your comments. So let me know where you're tuning in from today. I am in the Atlanta area today. I reside in the Tampa Bay area of Florida, but today I am in Atlanta. And hi, thanks for those. Happy holidays to you as well. Virginia's in the house. And let me know again where you're tuning in from. I'm really excited to actually see your comments this week because for those of you just joining, for some reason I had some odd glitch for the past couple weeks. So I wasn't seeing a lot of you guys' comments, but I see your comments now, which is awesome. Sacramento's in the house. Welcome, welcome. DC's in the house. We got a couple DC people in the house today. So welcome, Virginia, Sacramento, Michigan, Farmington Hills, Michigan, Ohio. Welcome, welcome. And thanks again so much for joining here. Pittsburgh's in the house as well. Thanks so much for joining. So if you're new to Mental Health Moment, just know we're here every single Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We talk about all things wellness, how to become the best version of who you are so you can show up powerfully for yourself and for those around you. And someone said New York is in the house with an exclamation point. Welcome. Mississippi's here. New York City, Huntsville, Alabama. So welcome, welcome again. And thanks so much for joining here. So as we are wrapping up the year, which is really crazy, you all, before you know it, we will be in a new year, which is, I don't know, it just feels like the end of the year just goes by so quickly. And here we are about to be in a new year again. So some of you may have already started on your, whatever you want to call it, New Year's resolutions, or maybe you have vision boards, or maybe you just write down a couple goals or whatever it is. Maybe it's a word or a phrase you have for the new year or something that you're preparing for as we look into this new year here, as we wait for this new year here. California's in the house. Welcome, welcome. Papua New Guinea's in the house, Texas. So thanks again for those of you who are joining. So if you're in that state of mind, which is a great state of mind to be, because before you know it, we'll be in a new year. I wanted to remind you of a couple of things, okay? Because what I have found over time as a psychologist and as an executive coach, and hearing many, many stories from people all throughout the world, frankly, is that we tend to think that there's like a certain thing on that list of goals that you have that's going to somehow magically make you happy. And like if you achieve one certain thing, then you'll be happy, right? So I share this with you today as a reminder that it doesn't always work like that because, and hi, thank you again for those of you who are still starting to join here. I share this with you today though, because for the last couple of days, so as I mentioned, I'm in Atlanta. And for the last couple of days, I went to this event called the Hope forum. And honestly, a spectacular event. Like, just completely amazed. I was completely inspired. It's a nonprofit with an organization called Operation Hope. So you can Google that. They do so much for the community, a lot of financial literacy and many other different programs. And so nonetheless, there was many different speakers and panelists and all these sorts of things at this conference. And then there was a private dinner that I went to over the past couple of days, actually last night. And what was really fascinating about that was that it was just a great dinner, learning about some different initiatives and things people were doing. But there were a couple of billionaires in the room with a B. And this is a small, intimate dinner. And what was fascinating about that experience was shaking hands with these individuals and having conversations. I just want to tell you that in just meeting many people, frankly, throughout this conference, who are very high net worth individuals and that sort of thing, so billionaires, for example, admitted they still have problems too, right? They still have dark days. They have a different set of problems maybe than the general population, but they still have problems too. However, they were still taking the time, which I thought was very commendable, to really think about changing the world at a very high level, right? Because there's more resources and that sort of thing, but what problems can be solved, and how can we help, and how can we work together as a community, right? Even if maybe different ones of us in the room had different levels of resources, like how can we all come together? And I'm sharing that with you because I want to remind you that for some of you, you may be like, man, you may have your list and you're like, if I just fill in the blank, if I just lose more weight, if I just make more money, if I just get this job, if I just, have this next goal met, then it's like the end all be all, then I'll be happy. And it's like, well, no, there's certain things that can make you happier. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with positive changes in your life. But I hope throughout that process, whatever you put on your list of things going into this next year, that in that process, because whatever it is you wrote on that list, it's probably not going to be something that takes a day. I don't assume, right? When we make goals, they tend to be maybe shorter term or longer term, but it may be something that takes weeks or months or years, whatever it is that you write down. So throughout that process, I do want to remind you that make sure that you take the time to find the joy in the process, which is hard sometimes because obstacles are going to come up. That's just what happens. But I share the story with you because, well, first of all, I will say I was just blown away by the humanity, frankly, of a lot of different people. We tend to make assumptions about people, you all. So whether it's, I've met so many people, thousands and thousands of people from different walks of life. So whether it's a billionaire who we make assumptions about, right? We tend to make assumptions about people with that much net worth, or whether it's been people who I've met who are sleeping in their cars, people who have had lifestyles where they're sleeping on the streets, who didn't have a house, who didn't have food, who didn't have money. I've seen everything in between. I've just been to many different countries, met many different people from different walks of life, successful, struggling, everything in between. But what I can tell you in that is we all share this thing called humanity. And it was so fascinating to me because I'm very fascinated as a psychologist at heart of hearing stories about people and the triumphs and the victories and the resilience, which we all have. But even at either end of the spectrum, we're still human, right? So I want to remind you of that as you go into this new year, not to make assumptions for yourself, not to make assumptions about others. And hi, thanks for those who are still starting to join here. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. We're talking about tonight, or maybe it's the morning, wherever you're at in the world watching this, but we're really talking about how do you go into this new year? How do you find the joy in the journey, if you will? How do you not place so much emphasis on if I achieve this particular thing, if I get this thing, if I make it to this level, or whatever it is that your goal or goals are, even if it's your wellness goals too, that it's not at that particular point, then you can choose to have the joy, then you can choose to have the happiness. No, it has to be in the journey. Now, I will say, as a reminder, there will be, I promise you that there will be obstacles along the way, which is why it's so important to find those moments of joy. We talk about that a lot on mental health moment, finding those moments of joy along the way. Someone said, think before you make assumptions. Absolutely. Good evening from Boston. Sorry I'm late. All good. Glad you're here. Someone says, I'm going into this new year prayerfully. Absolutely. Do not, and someone said on here too, don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions for you, right? And also not to make assumptions of other people. And I know today we're talking about, moving into this new year here, but as an aside, I also want to share with you and remind you not to be making assumptions about the people around you, not based on how they look, not based on how they dress, not based on how much money you think they do or do not have. I mean, like I said, these past couple of days have been not only inspiring to hear. I mean, man, it just, there's a whole list. If you're on Instagram, go to Dr. Hammond, and I put like this whole long summary, which is a little bit longer for mental health moment, but a whole long summary of some of the amazing speakers, but just so inspiring to hear the level of innovation, the level of trying to help other people. And we're I don't want to get my soapbox too much tonight, y'all, but we all can be guilty of, again, making those assumptions, making those judgments. And there are really good people out there in the world. We don't know everyone's full story, though. So again, as you move into this new year, I hope that one of the things on your list is really to think about, on your list of things you want to accomplish, is really to think about understanding that everyone has a story. People are not all, what is the saying I always see on Instagram? People don't look like what they've been through sometimes, right? So we make assumptions about who people are and where they've been and whatever. It could be based on how much money they do or do not have. It could be based on how they look. It could be based on all these different things, which is not always the case. So I really want you to keep that in mind as well. Someone said, welcome. Thanks so much for joining here. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I know some people were saying, you can just ignore some of the spam contents. Happy holidays to you too. Detroit is in the house. Cali's here. New Jersey's here. Welcome. Someone said they're here from San Jose, California. Welcome. And thanks so much for joining here today. So again, couple things for you to think about, again, moving into this new year. Number one, make sure you write things down. Whatever it is for you, there's nothing wrong with the goals. As I mentioned before, though, make sure you're not putting so much emphasis on waiting until you meet that goal to have the joy that you deserve. You can have the joy along the way, but write those things down. The second thing that I want you to think about is, whatever your goals may be, hopefully, and I say this every year on Mental Health Moment, but I'm going to remind you again, especially for those of you who are new, make sure that some of your goals relate to your self-care, right? Relate to you. Like, how do you become a better person? I feel like a lot of goals that I hear, and there's nothing wrong with those things, but they're usually along the line. Some of the really common goals are like, I want to get this better job. I want to get this more money. I want this, maybe it's a house or a car, lose weight, all those sorts of things. Nothing wrong with those goals, but also for you, what is your self-care goal, right? How do you want to show up more powerfully for yourself and to help those around you? And you can put some of those in the comments here. If maybe you're still thinking about it, which is okay. But if you already know some of those things, then put it in the comments, because what tends to happen is when you put things in the comments, other people may see these responses and go, wait a minute, you know what? Let me try that as well. All right. So whatever it is for you, I always say, start with taking a minute. If you're at the point where you're like, man, I don't have any time for self-care, I don't have any time for me time, I hear that all the time, then you literally can start with 60 seconds. So if that's your goal, like, I'm going to give myself 60 seconds a day, start there. Years ago, literally, y'all, that's where I started, because I didn't feel like I had any time, which is actually not true, but that's a whole nother story. We tell ourselves things. We absolutely make time for things that are important to us and that we prioritize. But I started that way as well. So if that's your goal, to start with 60 seconds a day, start there. If you have another goal, if you're already past that point, maybe you're like, no, I'm good, but here's something else I want to add into my life, then you do that as well. Someone said that make your impact, make your impact positive ones rather than assumptions that can distract the humanity of life. Absolutely, absolutely. Because I want to go back to that, and then I'm going to read some of your comments here. But oh gosh, I cannot stress that enough. Like, it's so hard to, it's almost hard for me to explain this to you all. I'm supposed to be explaining this to you all tonight, but the humanity, the humanity that we all share. You all, like, we make so many assumptions, but the humanity of it all, like, I've met, as I mentioned before, and I'll repeat that because I know some of you are coming in late today, but the individuals that all the individuals, frankly, that I've had the opportunity to meet, but a lot of individuals that I've had the opportunity to meet and hear their stories, who, again, like I said, were living out of their car, or have had many times in their life where they've had no food, or they've had no shelter, or they've been really struggling monetarily, and all these sorts of things. Like, there's so much overlap in their stories and their resilience and getting through those times, along with the billionaires that I've met these past couple of days, and hearing their stories of resilience. Like, but again, these are the two extremes, right? We have, I mean, people that are not at all worrying about the money, the billionaires, and then people who are without shelter in some way, who are worrying about survival, right? So these are the two extremes, maybe, of people when we think about money. But at the same time, there's literally a shared humanity in those two individuals, or in those individuals at either spectrum. But those are people that we tend to make assumptions about, and not just with wealth, and not just with money, but it's the same thing with the way we look, the same thing with ethnicity, the same thing with race and religion and politics and all these things. Like, we keep making massive assumptions about each other, and we don't even know each other's stories half the time. So really keep that in mind as we head into this new year. And thank you for sharing that. Someone else said, waiting and procrastination are the thieves of God's valuable time. Absolutely. So again, don't wait to make your goals. Don't write these things down. I know what the research says, and it's like, oh, well, if you write down your resolutions, and most of the time you're not even going to complete all this stuff. Okay, here's what I say about that. Yes, that may be true to an extent, but it's still important for you to write it down. It's still important for you to make that commitment to yourself, because even if for some reason February comes, you're like, man, I didn't do XYZ on there, you can tweak your goals. You still made the commitment to start that, right? And you can always start something else. You're allowed to change your goal. This is your life. This is your self-care plan. This is your moment, right? To think about, how can I change in a positive direction? You're allowed to tweak those type of things. And life happens. And sometimes we take a couple steps back, and then we take a couple steps forward. That's okay. But we have to keep going, right? We have to keep pushing forward. Someone said for the new year, they want to add in more meditation, prayer, massages, mindfulness, and travel. I love every single one of those things. I'm with you on that. Definitely my goals as well. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Someone said helping others is a big part of my self-care therapy. I love to hear that. I love to hear that. That is great. Oh, which is, yes, we'll be talking about that more in the new year. I was going to share some things that I'm like, oh, I can't share them yet. But yes, we'll be talking more about that in the new year. But absolutely, there's so much research, you all, on how you helping other people is helpful to yourself. It's helpful for the person too, right? But it's also helpful for you. It can be very, very therapeutic. Oh man, if you go to Hope Global Forum, if you Google that, I'm sure the pictures are out there. I think I'm pretty sure they live stream, or there might be recordings or clips of this forum, like I said, that I went to the last couple of days. But just, it was so amazing to hear the stories of the giving. Like, I can't even explain to you the partnerships, and like the organizations, and people helping other people. Like, how can we help? What can we do? People picking up the phone. What can I do to help? Just lots of money transferred in good places, lots of changes happening in communities. Like, oh, it was it was amazing. So yes, so helping others is it can be really therapeutic for you. And I also want to remind you on that note that you please help in the way that you can. Right? So it's funny because I forgot who it was during the forum, but they were talking about this one individual that gave, I want to say it was like $180 million donation, right? Most people cannot give $180 million donation. Maybe you can. I don't want to make assumptions. We just talk about assumptions. I don't want to make assumptions. Maybe you can, but maybe you can't. But the point is, obviously, that was a very large donation that this organization made for this um, for a partnership that was something to help the community. Um, Please help in the way that you're able to help. Every single thing counts. Whether it's your funds, whether it's your connections, whether it's your time, whether you're volunteering, every single thing counts. So please make sure, yes, I would encourage you, like that one person is, to add that to your self care therapy as well. Someone else said that no one looks like what they've been through. We as therapists have to listen to understand them better and pay attention to body language. Yes, we too oftentimes make assumptions based on how people look. Not always the case. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And even, what was fascinating with hearing all the stories. I mean, there was CEOs from like major Fortune 100 companies and all those sorts of things. And again, we're making assumptions, right? But hearing the backstory, hearing the trauma that some people went through as a child, hearing what they had to go through, and just all these sorts of things, like you don't know that because again, we're making assumptions about people. So that's absolutely true. Someone else said, it's hard, but I plan to work and I'm still trying to figure it out. Beautiful. And for those of you, which is completely fine, for those of you right now who are like, I haven't really figured it out, I'm not really sure. If you're seeking clarity, the best way to get clarity is to be still, right? Which is hard for us sometimes because we live in this crazy, hectic, busy society, and it can feel like it's always something or another happening, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's something happening in the world, whether it's something on social media. Like it can be a lot and heavy to process. But when you do your best to make the time to be still, again, even if it's 60 seconds a day, to have the quiet time, to have some meditation time, to really think about and reflect for you, what do I need? How am I doing? What do I need right now? Asking yourself those types of questions, you will know the answers. But you have to take the time to be still, which is hard for sometimes. I'm not saying it's easy, but that's the way you work on the clarity. Someone said, my self-care goal is to strive for consistency. Beautiful. I love it. Someone says creating a routine, aka discipline. Yes. And for those of you, because I'm seeing that theme here a little bit with like discipline or consistency, a book I would highly recommend if you haven't already read it is called Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's so good. It's, in a nutshell, so good at teaching how to establish these habits, how to take the baby steps, how it all goes together, working on being 1% better a day, which over a year is a ridiculously much better version of yourself. So I encourage you to check out that book. Someone can just put in the comments, but it's Atomic Habits by James Clear. Really good book. One of my favorite books, actually. Someone else said meditation, prayer, and positive confessions first thing in the morning. I love it. This sets the tone for your day. Definitely want to commit to doing this more. Beautiful. Yes, I am. Well, let me put an asterisk on that. For those of you who know me, for those of you who it's not your first mental health moment, I am not a morning person. I am a confessed not a morning person. However, though, which I started doing the last couple years here, I do believe in a morning routine. Now, I love my colleagues that wake up at 3 and 4 a.m. and all the things and start their day super early. That is not me. That can be you if that works for you. That I'm not there yet. However, though, I still believe in a morning routine and being intentional in the morning, which is something I changed, and it has been life-changing to start out with the me time instead of like the going straight to the phone or email or something else. And again, like that person said, it's what you want your morning to be. So for me, my mornings are like literally as soon as I open my eyes, I have to be in like a state of gratitude. Like, what am I grateful today? What am I grateful for today? Or maybe it was something that happened yesterday or something that's going to happen the next day, but something relatively recent what is it that I'm grateful for? And going straight, for me, it's straight to God. It can be whatever it is for you. But so starting the day with gratitude, I have a devotional that's like right by my bed. I'm like, okay, let me start with that as well. Like read my scripture, read my inspirational message. Like that is how my day, every single day starts. Like I have like a smaller devotional because for those of you who are not new to mental health moment, you know that I travel quite a bit. So I have like the travel one that comes with me in the backpack. And then I have one, well, where I reside on my nightstand there as well. So I never forget it. So I have my devotional, I have my gratitude time, my quiet time, all those sorts of things. So that's first thing in the morning. But again, you have to set what works for you. But I love that and highly encourage that as well. Good evening to you as well, especially who's united us to greater understanding success. Beautiful. Okay, someone said, yep. Someone said, just like a car looks good, but that engine may have been overhauled. Absolutely. Let's see. Let me scroll through. Someone said, being intentional on putting me first. Beautiful. And that is absolutely, yes. Well, I'll get to your question in a second, but that is absolutely a process. Being intentional on putting you first. I highly, highly, highly encourage, which is actually what my next book's about, but I highly, highly encourage you to work on the journey of making yourself your number one priority. For each and every one of you listening to this right now, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. It is a mental shift that needs to happen. It's not normally an overnight process, but you can start to take the steps to make that happen. And once you do, and I've done that, I know this personally and professionally, but once you do that, again, you're working on being a better version of yourself, being more improved. You are not only just helping you, you are helping those around you as well, because now you're coming with the best version of who you are, right? So I love that. It's absolutely, absolutely wonderful. And yes, thank you for putting that in the chat here, the name of the book. Any recommendation on the devotionals? You know what? I have what I have. I'd have to, yeah, I have it here at the hotel, but I will give you the name. Yeah, next week. I'm gonna write myself a note. I'll give you the name next week. But honestly, I went to, I think it was Books a Million or something like that. There's tons of devotionals out there. I mean, you can also order online, of course, but whatever speaks to you. But I can show you next week the ones that I'm using, the two that I'm using. Let me see. Someone said, how does one oh, someone said Bible Gateway has daily devotionals too. Yeah. I literally went to the devotional section of a bookstore and picked out the ones that kind of spoke to me. But I'll show you mine next week as well. How does one unlearn a selfless mindset? Great question. And then we're going to wrap up here. But how do you unlearn a selfless mindset? Here's the thing. It can be really hard sometimes because a lot of us were taught wrongly, and I'll be boldly and say wrongly. We were taught growing up, put everything else above you. Like you are last, put everything else above you, which is not healthy for you at all. I don't know about you, but I do not remember conversations growing up about self-care, about taking a minute to reset, recharge. What about your mental health? Make sure you're okay. Take care of you. Like, I don't remember those conversations. Maybe I had them. I don't remember them at all because that just wasn't the narrative back then. We weren't focusing on mental health, but now, thankfully, that we are doing that more. When you start taking the steps to take care of you, now that looks different depending on who you are. It is, I promise you, it's a journey. I promise you, it's a process. You have to take the steps though. What is it for you that brings you joy? Starting there. For me, I know it's spending time in nature. I have my devotionals. I make sure I'm working out. I adore my son, my 11-year-old son. So doing things with him, like there's certain things that really for me is like, man, this brings me so much joy. So you have to ask yourself though, what is that for you? So writing that down, like here's the top 5 things that I know bring me joy. Now, if you're like, I want to travel on the other side of the world, okay, which is nothing wrong with that, but that's not something you can do on a daily basis. So also asking yourself realistically, what are things you can do on a daily basis that bring you joy, or a weekly basis, or a monthly basis, or a yearly basis? Writing those types of things down and then taking the steps toward realistically doing more of that. Putting yourself first means that you are doing more things that bring you joy. You are understanding that you deserve to be happy, which is a process to understand that, but you deserve to be happy. You deserve to be emotionally healthy. You deserve to have joy in your life. You deserve to take care of yourself. You deserve to reset, to recharge, to have the me time. Sometimes people also do this through affirmations. So, I mean, there's a lot of different affirmations that you can use, but you can even Google these. But having a couple of affirmations that you're telling yourself each day, so you can work on retraining your brain. Those are the types of things that you can do to start to unlearn that. If you're in that place where you're like, man, I'm last on my list, we want to like, let's bump it up, right? If you have the top 10 things priority, and you feel like you're number 9, which I've been there, done that before, put myself at like number 9 out of 10 things. How can you work on bumping yourself up on your priority list until you hit number 1 on the list? Because that's your goal. So, yep, someone said, especially women, we tend to put everyone before us. Yes. And what I want to say again, as I'm wrapping up here on today's mental health moment, I want to remind you, please don't blame yourself, because a lot of you were taught this growing up. We were wrongly taught, put everything else before us, get everything done, do everything, be super woman or superman or super person, or, whatever, like all these things that will lead to burnout. That will not lead to you being sustainable. That is not mentally and emotionally sustainable. What is mentally and emotionally sustainable is you taking care of yourself, be amazing, do great things, take care of others. All those things are great, but also you have to take care of yourself. And again, it's a journey and a process to get there. Someone said, always taught to nurture others, but not taught how, when we are empty, how do we feel? Yes. Yes. So now we have to work on unlearning all this, which is okay. Give yourself permission to relearn the things you were taught that didn't make you the best version of who you are. Because you can always change. I don't care how old you are watching this, how young or old you are, frankly, watching this, you can always change. You can always make improvements. There's always room for improvements. Even though I'm thankfully really glad that I am in a like much healthier, happier state now than I was many years ago, and not burnt out and doing all these things that just weren't healthy, and not focusing on my mental health. Even though I'm in this place now, I'm not like, oh, I'm good, that's it. No, I'm still working on how can I be better? How can I learn things to be healthier? How can I help myself become a better version of who I am, right? Like this is a lifelong commitment, you all, right? But again, it starts with taking the baby steps. It starts with taking a minute, if that's what you need to do. If you're not there yet, if you're already like, I'm good, like I'm past my minute, I'm at 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever it is, amazing, right? So keep doing what you're doing, and remember to write these things down. Someone said, I was told that if I'm not caring for myself, there's no way to care for anyone else. Self must come first to assist others. Absolutely. Yes. And someone said, and not feel guilty. Yes. Yes. And for those of you who are struggling with this, which is okay, please know that when you put yourself first, you're still helping others too. I am not saying you're the only priority in your life and, forget everybody else. Like we're not saying that. The people you care about in your life, the things you care about, all those are still important things. Those are still important to who you are, but you put yourself first, take care of you. So again, you're showing up like as a powerful, amazing, healthy human being for those people around you. So I'm going to wrap up today's mental health moment. We went like way over here. So for those of you who are new, normally it's a lot shorter, but you guys had a lot of comments, which is absolutely okay. Oh, someone said reset, recharge, and retrain. I love that. Which is absolutely okay. I love when you guys have questions. I love when you put in the comments what you're working on and what you're doing, which is so amazing, because hopefully someone else too will be inspired by the things that you're doing and try to do those things as well. Because it's all about positivity. How can you become the best version of who you are? Celebrating also, you all celebrating the moments, the little wins, they count too. You're absolutely welcome. So I will be back next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here live on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. Have an amazing week. Be sure to keep writing down your self-care goals and all your other goals moving into this new year. And I will be back next week. So have an amazing week, you all. Be blessed, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.